What are you doing? Come and show these guys this tiny house. Come on. Come and show them. Come on. Where'd you go? Okay. So last week, Luca helped us bring in this tiny house that we're parking on a lot in Regina Beach, Saskatchewan on Long Lake. That tiny house was a Robinson residential home. It's called the Dragonfly. It's been down at the big tiny house jamboree down in Denver, Colorado. Was it just south of Denver? The air base, Colorado City, Colorado, or something like that. A couple of years ago it was there. The homeowner of this cabin ended up buying it. He's going to use it as a kind of a mother-in-law suite guest house slash B&B or Airbnb type of thing. So Luca helped us bring it in last week. We hauled it in down this road here with a U-Haul, because the U-Haul cube was a perfect thing to haul it with. That's what we used to go to Denver. Just brought it up to this point here, dropped it. And once we dropped it, we had to get it from there with the hitch facing in there. And it was like, well, we can't get all those vehicles in, that big vehicle in here to tow it in. So what we did is we hooked up a Nissan Pathfinder, towed it in through here. Right, we got it up to about this point here with the hitch somewhere around here. And then from this point on, the navigator unhooked, pulled forward into the low spot of the grass, turned around, backed into here, parked the the Nissan here, just over here until we could pull the tiny house in all the way. So then what we did up the front of the tiny house is, once it was here, we were able to use this tree as our anchor point. We strapped it onto the hitch. We pulled that tiny house right into the point here, unhooked that strap, hooked it up to a tree over here, and just used a come along. So hooked it to that tree there and right up to the front end of the trailer here. And all we did was we dropped the skid plate and put plywood underneath the skid plate and skidded it in all the way up to that point that it was at the right angle. Then from that angle, we put plywood underneath the wheels. Just put plywood under the wheels and tied it back up to this tree here. Hooked it to the corner of the trailer and just used a come along and winched it right back into the corner where it's going to probably sit. We just got a little tight clearance here on that tree. Going to move it about another 6 inches up. Most of the information on this thing is about when you do get a tiny house, it's RM and your town council or your village council that has to approve these things. This one here was built to pretty much building codes, but like most building codes, they change in jurisdictions. So this unit, in order for it to be able to sit here, wheels have to come off, has to be skirted, it needs to be put on basically a foundation. And in this case we're doing a skid system. We'll have gravel, concrete, blocking, and then adjustable jacks on all four corners, and not the jacks that these come with, because those are just camper jacks. They don't work very good for long-term holding. So we're just going to leave those off and put on like 4x4 post, almost like a mini telepost type thing. That'll be on all four corners, and then we'll skirt it. The only thing we did have is the deck on this side that is supposed to come down to create the other wing of the Dragonfly. We're just doing a short little, almost a Juliet deck here, with stairs coming down to the back side, so you can come and enter from this one side, and it makes for a secondary fire exit. And the other thing the RM required is that couldn't go with the compost toilet in here. You had to go with a flush toilet, and that flush toilet has to be hooked up into the septic tank, which is behind that deck that's turned up on the side. So we're going to trench in across the yard, to have a plumbing access the bottom corner of this, because the bathroom is in the back end of this tiny house. And so that's the one requirement. The other one was you had a moving permit. You had to have a building permit. The inspector has been out. He requires us to put a fan in the bathroom and a fan exhaust in the kitchen living area, because it is such a seal. This thing was built with SIP panels, and so she's R40 ceiling, R20 walls, R20 floor. It's pretty insulated well. It has a little ship heater in it. What was the other thing they required? Oh, we have to take these cables off and then put a standard railing on it that meets regulation height. And then we're going to add on the secondary deck over there to this part to give this part of the deck a little bit more space. And then the stairs, I think, will they may come down here or here to join up to the walkway that goes to the back of this property. Quick look on the inside. The bed, which folds out to be a hide-a-bed. There's your view. Once all the building and construction is done out here, it will be cleaned up on the deck. Here's your secondary patio door that's going to have the Juliet deck on it with stairs at the back. Pop-out table. That thing slides out in order to have for your supper table. Luca, come up the stairs here. The dog's trying to come up here. Here. Okay, don't come up. Anyways, so we need exhaust. This is the heating system in here. It's got a 3-way or 2-way fridge here, sink, gas stove, microwave, toilet. In the back end, there's a loft up the back also. This is the ladder. That's the ladder to get up into the loft. It has a bunch of storage compartments in it. All this stuff can be seen online at robinsonresidential.com. And a couple of skylights. We just hooked up a smart lighting system here, so everything turns on and off on the mobile phone. That light, these other lights are all hooked up. I've got a little demo of how to hook those things up. And so you just got to be aware of the extra costs involved in having a tiny house put on a property, because they're not standard, and they're not sure how they're going to approach it, but it ended up costing them, quite a few $1,000s more than they anticipated on, because they don't want people just pulling in motorhomes and parking them and then using those as a mother-in-law suite. So this one here, it's quite a beautiful cabin or tiny house. The roof is also deck ready, so you can put a deck up there if you wanted to. Awfully high, so now you'd have to figure out a safe access to it. Or it's ready for solar panels if you wanted to run it off of solar. Anyways, that's it for today for Better Call Paul. This is just another one of the 3-4 crazy projects I've done in the last month or so, and there's always plenty more to come. That's why they call me Better Call Paul, because I'm the guy that does all the shitty jobs that nobody else will do.